All right, so we're going to go ahead and start our review. 5.3 to 6. Before we do, your homework is your test review. You'll pick it up after your quiz. You'll do the evens. My last class, some of them had time to do the entire thing. Just depends on you. Your last test is on Wednesday. Help class begins at 3:30 today. If you want to practice Kahoots, there are 2 for this section. I've opened up like a challenge. You can just type this into the Kahoot if you want to write it down. This first one goes over congruence theorems. There are 5 congruence theorems. Can we name them? Hypotenuse leg. What else? Side angle side, side side side. What else? Angle side angle, and then angle angle side. So that first Kahoot goes over those 5 theorems. The second one goes over 5.1 to 2. That was over triangles, like the angles inside. It also went over right triangles, and it also went over the exterior angle theorem, how to find the exterior angle. So at the end, if you haven't already written it down, you can write it down later because it will be on the last slide as well. So in this section, decide if the following triangles can be proven congruent by the given theorem. If not, state what additional information is required in order to know the triangles are congruent for the reason given. So like in this first one, it's asking, do we have hypotenuse leg? If we do, then you would say yes. If we don't, then you tell me what we need in order to have hypotenuse leg. So you need to look at what you have in order to figure out what you don't have. So of hypotenuse leg, are the hypotenuses marked congruent?
Yes.
They are not. A leg is marked congruent. Because where is the leg that's congruent? The side they share. So a leg is congruent. We don't have the hypotenuse marked congruent. Where is the hypotenuse in comparison to the right angle? It's directly across. Directly across. So these 2 need to be marked congruent. So how would I name this first side? FG. If I said FG, what would it have to be congruent to in the second? CG. Sorry, my handwriting isn't great. This next one, we're trying to decide if we have angle, angle, side. So we're going to compare, I'm going to compare the top triangle to the bottom. Do we have an angle marked congruent to an angle?
Yes.
We do. Do we have an angle marked congruent to an angle?
Yes.
We do. And then do we have a side?
Yes.
Yes. In angle, angle, side, the side needs to be not included. What does the word included mean here?
In between.
Yeah, not in between. So, is my side not in between my angles? Yes. So this is angle, angle, side. So you just say yes. Nothing else to do. The next one we have side, angle, side. We're trying to see if we have that. So we're going to compare. I'm going to compare the left triangle. So we have a side congruent to a side to a side. Do we have an angle? We do. Where is the angle? Vertical angles. Inside angle side, where does the angle need to be? In the middle. We call that included. So is my angle in between my 2 sides? It is. Here are my 2 sides, and the angle is wedged between. So this one would just be a yes. The next one we want to do angle, angle, side. So I'm going to compare. We have an angle congruent to an angle. Do we have anything else?
Yes.
We have a side. So we need another angle. There's actually 2 possible answers here. The first one I'm going to highlight. How would I name this top portion? Yeah, LUT. So angle LUT would be congruent to angle STU. Or you could have a separate answer. You could say this bottom angle would be congruent to this top angle, because it would still be angle, angle, side, or angle, angle, side, same thing. So, how would I name the angle in blue? We'll do this left one first. LTU would be congruent to angle STU. U-T. So on your quiz, you wouldn't need to name both. You would name one of them. You would just pick which one. Why couldn't I just say angle U and angle T?
Because they have 2 angles.
Yeah, they have 2 angles there. Okay, so you have to use 3 letters if there's too many angles. This next one, This next one, go ahead and write in the letters. You don't have them. I don't know why. So I named the first one ABC and then CBE. So we're just going to use the information they gave us because there are actually a lot of answers you could use here. But we have an angle, congruent to an angle, congruent to an angle. So of angle, side angle, what are we missing? The side. And where does the side need to be in comparison to the angles? In the middle, so in between, or included. So, what side would need to be congruent on my first triangle to my second? AB. Side AB would need to be congruent to side DE. So here's why I said this one, there's technically a couple answers. What is not marked but is understood?
Vertical.
Your vertical angles. So realistically, you could also have the answer AC could be congruent to CD because that would be angle, side angle. Or CB would be congruent to CE because that would also be angle, side angle. So there's like a lot of answers. That won't be like that on the quiz, but just in this picture. This next one we want to prove side, side, side. So side, side, side means you have 3 congruent sides to 3 congruent sides. Are all of my sides marked congruent to all the sides on the other? No, we're missing a side. We have GI is congruent to IJ. We have the side they share. So your missing side is GK. What would GK need to be congruent to? JK. Good. All right, this next section, it says in the figure, angle A is congruent to angle B. Find the congruent sides. So if angle B is marked congruent, I'm just choosing angle B because that's where I want to. What side corresponds with angle B? AC. So that means AC will be congruent to a side. I'm getting there. Angle A is marked congruent, so the side across from it will also be congruent. So that's where BC comes in. And that's the answer. And then vice versa is also true. This next one says find the values of X and Y. We're going to do Y first because it's actually easier. Is Y an angle or a side? It's a side. What kind of triangle is Y attached to? Equiangular, equilateral. So all the sides are going to equal what? 28. So if 4Y equals 28, then Y equals 7. Then we're going to use this information to find X. Is X an angle or a side? It's an angle, so we're going to talk about angles. Before we erase the side lengths, what kind of triangle do we have here? It's isosceles because this side was 28 and this side's also 28. Okay, so that means that these 2 sides are marked congruent. So we need to find the angles inside of our isosceles triangle. Oops, sorry. We still need to find the angles inside of our isosceles triangle. What will the measure of this angle be, or how would I find the measure of this angle?
180 minus 60.
Good. 180 minus the 60 degrees here. They're a linear pair. So 180 minus 60 is 120. So that's for that angle. And then 2 of my angles will be congruent because 2 of my sides are congruent. So what 2 angles will be congruent? Another 2x and then the 2x. These will be congruent to each other. There are a couple ways to solve this, but I'm just going to do it the foolproof way. What do you know about the 3 angles inside of a triangle? They add up and they equal 180. So that's what I'm going to do. combine like terms, you get 4x plus 120 equals 180. Subtract 120 and 4x equals 60. Divide by 4 and x equals 15. So you could have done it a couple different ways, but I just showed you the way that will get you the right answer every single time. The last problem on this page, you have an equilateral. If it's equilateral, that means it is also equiangular. So you could do this two ways. If one of the angles is 2x, what's the measure of the rest of them? 2x. So that's good information. Then you know 3 angles add up and equal 180. Or the way I actually will do it. Oop. This is one way. Or, what will each of the individual angles equal? 60. So that means 2x will equal 60. So x will equal 30. So either way you did it, you would have gotten x equals 30 as long as your math was correct. We can go ahead and flip. Find the value of x. So in this first one, what kind of triangle do we have? Isosceles. So we know 2 sides are congruent. So then what could I do to find the value of x?
4x minus 8 equals 2x.
So because these sides are the same length, that means they're equal in length. So you can set them equal. 4x minus 8 will equal 2x plus 18. Subtract my smaller x. 2x minus 8 equals 18. Add 8. 2x equals 26, so x equals 13. It doesn't tell us to here, but on the quiz it might. It might say find all the side lengths. So what would I do with x to find all the side lengths? Plug it back in. Good. We're not going to do that right now because it doesn't tell us in our directions. But again, it might on your quiz or your test. This middle one, what kind of triangle do we have going on? Isosceles again. So then what 2 angles will be the same? 4x and then the blank one. Good. Because they're across from your congruent sides. All right, and then these are all sides or angles. They're angles. So what do we know about the 3 angles in a triangle? They add up and they equal 180. So 4x plus 4x plus 6x equals 180. What's 4 plus 4 plus 6? 14. We are going to get a decimal. We're actually going to round to the hundredths. That's 2 decimal places. So what will we get?
12.86.
All right, so then the last one we do together. What do we call the angle? This location of 125? What do we call that? The what? Exterior. This is called the exterior angle. We'll talk about what that means to us in a second. But the angle we should find next would be the angle that is adjacent to the exterior, which is called the interior. What relationship does the interior have with the exterior? They're a linear pair, which means they add up to 180. Good. So then what will the measure of my highlighted angle be? 55. Because 180 minus 125 is 55. Then I know 2 sides are congruent. That means 2 angles are congruent. So this angle down here on the left is also 55. So then to find the measure of angle E, you add them up. What's 55 plus 55? 110 minus 180 is 70. So this is why I bring this up. It says find the value of x, but there's no x here. The 2 non-adjacent will add up and equal the exterior. Because what's 55 plus 70? 125. This is a property that is on your test. It's not on your quiz today, but it is on your test on Wednesday. It's from 5.1, if you do not remember. Okay? Go ahead and clear your desks. So once you finish your quiz, you're going to pick up the test review. The evens are the homework. And then again, I told you I'd leave up the Kahoot codes for you. So you can always take a picture as you leave.